Welcome back. Thank you once again for joining us. It's a beautiful Monday morning. I'm coming to you from Jeffersonville, Indiana once again, but for one night only before I'm right back in Ohio. It's good to be back here, my nice little apartment for a little bit. You know, the tractor sign still how I left it.
Uh-huh.
But I can't get away from my family, man. I just love them too much, so.
What a guy.
Dominic, though, we did have a pretty eventful weekend through all sports, really. I mean, there was just a lot going on this weekend. It was a great weekend for sports, but MMA was no different. And now weekend started on Thursday, of course, with PFL. So how was your weekend, my friend?
It was a very good weekend, man. A lot of good company, family, friends, girlfriend, everything in between. Fights. I mean, it was just nonstop from start to finish. We're here on Sunday. We're ready to recap it all. And there's no one better to recap fights with than this guy right here. Damn it, I pointed the wrong direction. This guy right here, Noah Baker, my guy. How was your weekend, my friend? I'm glad you're back in action.
It was a good weekend. It was a very good weekend. Got to see a lot of family. I wish I could have seen them under better circumstances, but it was good to see everybody, check in with everybody, but I couldn't sway from my responsibilities, Dom.
Yes.
Even despite the circumstances, I had to make time for that MMA.
Man of the people.
The job never stops.
No.
The city doesn't sleep.
No.
The sport moves on.
Yes.
Before we get into it, though, Dominic, I want you to tell everybody, my directionally challenged friend,
Yes.
where the people can find us on social media.
Okay, so let me get this right. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram at dslee14. A lot of good content there. You can find Noah, the co-host, on Twitter, on Instagram at ntbaker_. Don't forget the underscore. Even better content over there. And the last, but certainly not least, the podcast social media. You can see it down low. Our third person in the chat today on the episode, if you're watching on YouTube, that is at BAJ_MMA podcast.
Highly recommend if anybody is going away on a trip or coming home from a trip, make sure you check before you leave everything you packed. That's why we got our third host in here today, because once again, my what I didn't realize were the most important headphones in the world to do this show
It's the key.
have been forgotten. You would think
Yes.
I would remember that would be the first thing on the list. They're so essential.
Yes.
But, yep, I've forgotten them. But since I'll be going right back, this is the only episode you guys will have to deal with this, and then we'll be back to normal. But, Dominic, enough of that. Yes. UFC Vegas, I don't know, insert number here.
53.
Yeah. Marlon Chito Vera in his first UFC main event makes good work of that by going the full 25 minutes and ultimately gets the unanimous decision win over Rob Font. I don't know what the scorecards were. Was it 48-47, 2 49-46s?
Ooh, that might be what it was. I don't remember.
I remember a 48-47, but this is one of those fights that my biggest glaring takeaway
Let them know.
was so often when you see people debating the winners of fights, they use striking statistics. They'll use the number of strikes landed by one fighter being higher as proof that they won the fight. This is the fight that shows you that is a terrible argument to make.
Yep.
Because Rob Font outstruck Marlon Vera every round of this fight. I think that's official. If not, maybe one round it was like dead even or Vera got one more. But I mean, it was so much so, in fact, that this was the biggest discrepancy in strikes between a winner and loser, passing the previous record of Robbie Lawler over Carlos Condit, which was a very controversial decision at the time. However, here, I don't think there is any controversy. I think Marlon Vera clearly won this fight. All credit to Rob Font, especially early for like the first 9.5 minutes of this fight. He looked to be in cruise control, looked really solid, looked like he was at his best form. But once Marlon Vera started hurting him, started stealing rounds from him, it just kind of it seemed like early all the momentum was on Font, and the fight just slowly and slowly and slowly went momentum swinging in the other way until basically Marlon Vera was in control of the fight.
Yeah.
Dominic, his first main event, he gets the W. I'll give you a minute to talk about Marlon Vera's performance here. However, there is perhaps some cause for concern, the fact that he is such a low output fighter in comparison to a lot of guys at the top of the rank here. He tends to be more particular about the punches he throws. He's more technical, a little more precise in how he throws things, doesn't do a lot of output. Could that limit him as he looks to make a big push here in the essentially bantamweight title picture?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, just to answer the question first, I think it's definitely something to at least take note of. But man, we're talking a guy in Rob Font, and of course, this top five of the bantamweight is a shark tank. It's unreal the talent that we're seeing at 135, especially amongst the elite. Rob Font threw close to, if not north of, 500 total strikes in this fight, and it didn't phase Chito one bit. So if there's any other fighter that's going to throw that same amount of volume, apparently Chito's just going to keep stalking you down and walking right through it. So while it is something to take note of, I don't think it's anything that can keep him from getting a dub after this performance. It really was that impressive to me, a coming out party, if you will, for Chito Vera. He, like you said, kind of pulled the rug out from Rob Font rounds 2, 3, and 4 while he was losing the beginnings. The last, really 2 and 3 was the last 30 seconds. Damn near finished Rob bad in both of those. And he almost finished him in round 4. So, man, it was just quite the performance to stay that composed in your first main event, to never lose the gas. And he had, decent output himself, nothing close to what Rob Font did. But, man, the power from Chito's dangerous. He's so dynamic in his strikes. Like, it just feels like there's so much impact with every shot he lands. This dude, I'm going to go ahead and say it because I haven't said it before, could be a problem, Noah, to these elite guys, and dare I say, a future title contender, man.
I mean, when you say he could be a problem, can you envision Marlon Vera with a belt wrapped around his waist?
It's hard to say no. I think that there is a world in which he could become the champion, man. I mean, what a career it's been at 29 years old, just now entering his prime after all this experience he has. I mean, yes, he does take damage. That's clear. I mean, obviously, Rob Font was landing so many strikes. So really, when you kind of go back to that first question you ask, if there's a hole, it's maybe not even so much the output that he allows, but he does eat shots. You can't do that forever and ever. But yes, I think he could become a champion, man. It was that type of performance to me. It was.
Yeah, I can't say the same. As much as I liked the performance, I thought it was a great showing for Marlon Vera, and I think it showed that he really is of the elite of the division. But you just look at, this is the toughest division probably in the whole UFC now. Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan. I mean, Peter Yan, I still stand by as the most talented fighter in the whole company, and he's not even the champion of his own division. TJ Dillashaw is one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo, one of the best to ever do it. He already lost to Aldo.
Yeah.
Then you got Corey Sandhagen, who everybody's saying should be his next fight. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a very winnable fight for him.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Corey Sandhagen, I think, is a very bad matchup. He is very high output. He's also got good power.
Yeah.
He mixes up his strikes very well. A lot of leg kicks that Chito Vera's always struggled with. Marlon Vera is great, but I think that unfortunately for him, he may end up finding himself to be sort of the stepping stone for now to project someone into a title fight, maybe, or to, he might be just that one fight someone takes to show that they are maybe, maybe if he doesn't fight Sandhagen, or if it's Sandhagen or Peter Yan, someone to show like it's a bounce back fight here at the top. So
yeah.
I respect that you think that Vera maybe has taken a step forward. I mean, I still think it's a step forward. It's just, to me, it's like a tiers, right? Like a tier list almost. In your opinion, he went from like an A tier or a B tier to a champion tier.
Yeah.
To me, I think he went from a B tier to an A tier, but there's still a champion tier in front of him.
Yeah.
So we'll obviously see how it goes. Do you think that Corey Sandhagen is the next fight for him?
That's what I was calling for last night watching, and I think I still stick by it today. There's so many fights. I mean, because I still like Sandhagen versus Marab Valishvili, truthfully, but any mixture of the ones, I mean, obviously we saw Chito and Jose Aldo. We don't know what's going to happen with the title picture. Jose's coming out calling for a fight over TJ. I don't know what's going to go on there. I think Vera, Corey Sandhagen, another 5-round main event on a fight night. Sign me up all day for that. I mean, if we're going to, especially for me, right? Because I'm coming out and saying he could be championship material. You got to beat Corey Sandhagen, man. That's what Aljamain Sterling did it. Peter Yan did it. They've been, the interim champion and the undisputed champion both. So I think that should be next. I do.
That's a good point. Very good point that Sandhagen has kind of served as the, not exactly in the way he wants to be known, but he has been kind of the, it seems like if you can beat him, you're a champion.
Yeah, he's that good.
Yeah. So definitely Marlon Vera, I don't want to act like I'm not excited about him after this. I thought he was going to win this fight. I'm happy to see that he came out there and delivered. I guess for Rob Font, a lot of damage taken in back-to-back fights. I mean, this is 2 in a row where Aldo really laid it on him for 5 rounds. Here against Vera, it's a lot of the same. And it's a tough loss because he wasn't really out of the fight as much as you would think.
Yep.
You look at the 2 guys at the end of the fight, and one of them looks messed up. And then you got Vera, who looks pretty clean. It tells one story, but the real story here is that Font kind of had this fight taken out of his grasp, just right out of reach. The scorecards kind of told you that. I mean, there was a couple rounds where he was winning upwards of over half the round, and then Vera lands a big shot, and obviously that matters. That counts. It's just, it's going to be – this one probably hurts more if you're a Rob Font fan or if you're Rob Font himself than the Aldo one did, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. And, for me, for Rob Font, and you kind of already said it, he fought a great fight, but still decisively lost. It's like this guy goes out and fights so good, even against Jose Aldo, Aldo controlled way more of the fight than what Chito Vera did, but Rob Font didn't fight bad. He doesn't fight bad. His opponents just go up to a new level when they seem to fight him,
true.
man. He's just pulling the best version of these guys out when they fight against him. Bad luck, if you will, but Rob Font's still a very good talent. Definitely a tough loss. Way more noticeable damage too in this one than the Jose fight. So that's 2 tough back-to-back ones, but I'm not ready to completely count him out still, man. I don't know.
I mean, are you thinking he's a champion level fighter right now?
I wouldn't say champion level for Rob Font yet, but dude, I mean, right on the borderline of AB still. I just think he's still a good talent.
No, I mean, he's great. He's great, but I mean, I would be hard. I would have to press you a little bit if you were still thinking he's like a champion.
No, not right now. Not
no. I mean, who's to say what happens down the road? Maybe he strings some wins together. But look, he came on strong. He came on kind of out of nowhere. He got really big wins over guys who, let's face it, Marlon Moraes, Cody Garbrandt were not in the best of. He kind of was very opportunistic in taking fights with guys on the decline, at least so it appears. I know we hold out a little bit of hope for Cody, but Marlon Moraes has retired since their fight. Time will tell if Rob Font is truly of this echelon of fighter. I think we will learn that he is, but the back-to-back losses, most of what it showed was that he is tough. But that's like the most backhanded compliment you can give to a guy at this level.
Yeah.
Oh, you're tough. There's a lot of tough fighters.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who can take a shot. But can you give a stronger shot back and get a win? Rob Font against the elite so far has just not quite been able to do it.
Right.
More on this card to come. We'll transition into a little bit of PFL, Dom, from Thursday.
That's right.
Almost like a long weekend. We kickstarted the weekend on Thursday. PFL 2, this was the weakest probably card on paper for the first 3 weeks of the PFL. Star power-wise, definitely on the lower end. It was heavyweights and featherweights, correct?
Yep.
So, Dominic, I mean, I'll just kind of open the floor to you. Let's kind of choose Like, give one person that stood out to you from from this card specifically. Who was like your one biggest takeaway, good or bad?
I'm going Chris Wade. I am. I had a
Hmm.
feeling he would kind of come on and win this fight. But as I watched it, I just really felt that he was in control. Good fight. It was a scrappy fight, but there was something about this performance to me that just made me feel like Chris Wade on a revenge tour, if you will. Lost in the finals last year. He's coming for it all. He just beat the two-time former champion and Lance Palmer. I don't know. He's just a very well-rounded, complete skill set, and that's what you need, especially here in the PFL, to go through this gauntlet, fight 4 or 5 times in 1 year. So, yeah, it was just a really good performance to me. Maybe didn't stand out in terms of, a big finish, a big submission, knockout, whatever you may have. But it was just a good 15 full minutes of control, and he showed skill sets in all areas, man. So I'm going Chris Wade.
Oh, that was an interesting pick. I didn't actually expect that one, but hard to not say. I didn't. Maybe I didn't pay as close enough attention as I should have to that fight. I think my biggest problem is Lance Palmer, as good as he's been for the PFL over the years, doesn't have the most exciting fight style in the world.
Yeah.
He's a tough cookie to crack, but he can just leave a little bit to be desired. If he's not in top control, he doesn't have a ton of power in his shots like a lot of wrestlers do. He's an interesting puzzle, and Chris Wade, I thought, did a pretty good job of handling him. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was 29-28 across the board for that fight, so that was good. I'll go with Renan Ferreira.
Dude.
This guy had a really rough start to his PFL career. This was the guy who had the phantom tap against Fabricio Verdum.
Yep.
In his debut for the PFL, where he clearly tapped. The ref didn't stop the fight, and then Ferreira, after Fabricio kind of let the choke go, Ferreira then knocks him out basically right away. So it was off to a rough start because that was just not very I don't know, it just wasn't good. I mean, right. Fabricio still hasn't fought since. He's contemplating retirement now.
Yeah.
But Renan Ferreira since then has went on a run. Had the record for quickest knockout, I believe, in the entire PFL's history. I could be wrong, at least for the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
It was like 35 seconds.
Yep.
Thursday night, he broke that record. His own.
Yeah.
29-second knockout, or 25-second, knockout with a front kick to the face.
Dude.
I mean, or not a front kick. It was wasn't it like a shin to the face?
It was like a shin to the face.
Yeah,
he tried to
shot in. One, missed, threw it again, landed flush. Game over for Jamel Jones. This dude looks like a fucking freak. He fights like a freak. Him versus Bruno Cappelozza is the fight that I put this on our Twitter account. I said, give me that fight. That fight could really be a big PFL heavyweight fight for if those two continue to dominate the way that Jamel Jones or that Ferreira has done since his debut, and Bruno Cappelozza has done literally every step of the way.
Yeah, that's going to be fireworks should that fight occur, man. I'll be curious to see also, too, just like what are these second matchups? What kind of matchups is PFL going to do for their second fight before the playoffs get started? Do they dare put them together now? Because I think that'd be a miss. I think you need to hold off, and hopefully that fight will come to fruition in the playoffs. But yeah, a 6'8" guy, 85-inch reach. This dude, his body's unprecedented in MMA outside of like Stefan Struve. It's crazy.
I'm not sure if people are even really behind him the way that I kind of gotten behind him since that fight, because I think so many people either have the bad taste of the Fabricio fight in their mouth, or they just don't care enough about him, don't know enough about him. He's kind of lower on these cards, but I'm telling you, man, that would be a very interesting fight between him and Bruno. Shall it ever occur here in the PFL?
I agree. So
PFL Week 3, we'll be coming back to you next week for that. Kayla Harrison, Anthony Pettis, Rory McDonald. I mean, that's a star-studded finale there. It's going to be on ESPN2 as well, so it's going to be a big debut on Primetime for the PFL for this season.
Yep.
Let's talk about a little bit of boxing, Dom, but not the boxing that I'd like to talk about in Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, a fantastic fight from this weekend. We had some shenanigans behind the scenes for our men counterparts, Kamaru Usman, along with his manager, Ali Abdelaziz. Kamaru Usman, by the way, the pound-for-pound king in the UFC, the long-standing welterweight champion, in case you didn't know. He has been calling for a matchup with Canelo Alvarez in a boxing ring for a long time. Now, what's so crazy about that, right? You know, Conor McGregor did it with Floyd Mayweather. Nobody seemed to bat an eye. Francis Ngannou looks like he might get that with Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
This exchange on Twitter, I think, perfectly encapsulates why people are so negative on the Usman Canelo talk.
Yeah.
I don't even know everything that was said to its fullest extent, but let's just say Canelo Alvarez proverbially shat on both of them.
Yes, true.
This started with Ali Abdelaziz trying to take shots at Canelo, acting like he fights nobodies.
Yeah.
You're just scared to fight the champ, Kamaru Usman, the GOAT, best to ever do it. On one hand, I get it, right? These guys are just trying to get this fight. They're trying to drum up some interest in it. And it's all fight promotion, right? That's all that this is about. But can they make it look a little less desperate, please?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is desperation. I mean, they are literally like begging, please, Canelo, please, just please.
Yeah.
Please acknowledge us. Please give us a fight. I want to get that red panty night, baby. Come on.
Right.
Look, it's, and I hate to feel that way because Kamaru Usman's like, I mean, he is literally a god tier in the UFC.
Yes.
So for our guy, the guy that we go to, if a boxing fan comes over and says, "Who's the best you have to offer?" Kamaru Usman's the best in the whole company.
Yep.
To see him doing this, I can't help but feel a lot of disappointment, Dom.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, they're clearly just trying to get that payday, right? And I think that's kind of what makes it look even worse, you know, especially like for the boxing fans. They're like, you know, well, this is typical, you know, boxers are always getting the big money paydays, and these UFC champions are begging and pleading to come over and fight one time in boxing just to get one of those paydays. And to see this happening shortly thereafter, the aftermath of Ngannou versus Fury, which at least that one seems like it's going to happen, but still, like, you know, it's also weird to me too. And listen, if you can go get the bag for Kamaru Usman, go get it. I'm not holding any
100%.
fighters back from getting the
100%.
money. But we're a wrestler here. I know Trevor Whitman's got that jab working, right? That jab's been popping. It's good. Hey, one punch knockout on Jorge Masvidal. But we're talking Canelo Alvarez, one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world right now, one of the best boxers of all time. This dude is a problem, and this isn't a good, like, is there any sort of way that Kamaru could come out of a fight with Canelo Alvarez looking good? You know what I mean? Like, is that possible? I just don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's purely a financial move here. And I mean, that's fine. Again, that's not what I'm even getting on about because the financial prospects, I completely get it. And again, you know, Dom, we try to avoid this, the fight, the fighter pay issue just because we're not very knowledgeable of it ourselves. And we'd be speaking out of line, I think, to really give any sort of opinion on it. But I will admit that the more and more that this comes up, because it's happening more often. I mean, Conor was kind of I don't even want to say the first. I mean, I remember Anderson Silva called for Roy Jones Jr. for a long
years
time.
ago. Yeah.
But really, Conor McGregor coming, and really, that one felt very even because
he was already making so much.
He was already so big. And don't get me wrong, Mayweather made probably twice, 3 times the amount of money Conor made in that fight.
Yeah.
But that was because, again, Mayweather promoted it himself on his end while the UFC and Conor McGregor split it 50-50 on their end. So, but I digress. That's not really the point. We've seen this pop up more and more. And I'm not, you know, Henry Cejudo even had that little thing with Ryan Garcia a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Even though, again, I don't, like, I know it's very popular for people in our shoes to have this kind of platform to come out and, you know, talk negatively about the UFC and the way they pay their fighters. And don't get me wrong, I see what you guys see. I just haven't. Again, if I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable enough on a topic, I'm not going to speak one way or another on it.
Yeah.
The problem becomes is that we keep going. Well, we understand this is a financial move, so but why does it have to be, right? Like, why does it have to be
Right.
this way? Why is boxing? Why is it such a discrepancy that boxing? Because it feels like the two sports are closer than ever in terms of
Yeah.
popularity. I understand there's a lot of differences in the structure. It just
Yeah.
and maybe, truthfully, maybe the sub. I mean, Canelo's making like $50 million a fight. It's hard for me to imagine that you can even turn a profit when you're paying a fighter
Yeah.
that much
It's
money.
crazy.
You know what I mean? So maybe it's not exactly the best thing in the world for someone to get paid that much money to fight. But and I'm not going to be the one to try to start taking money away from people or
Yeah.
asking for that. It's just at the end of the day, what Kamaru Usman is doing right now just feels very desperate.
Yeah,
And
that's the word.
it's hurting. Is it hurt? It feels like in a way it's kind of hurting this legacy he's kind of building. Not legacy. It hurts the persona that he's built for himself again as this champion, that this goat, this slayer of all his opponents. You know, he's the best in the whole company. He puts on a very good persona, but then you see him doing this on Twitter, and it kind of feels like it's tearing away this goat persona down to where he's really just another guy looking for a big payday, and he's not. It's just not working. I don't think. Like, tell me right or wrong. Do you feel like Ali Abdelaziz and Kamaru Usman, the fact that Canelo responded to him, I feel like they thought that was a win.
I mean, probably, yeah, I would say.
But
Multiple
it's not.
responses. Yeah,
It's not
no.
a win
No.
because
It doesn't
they
get you
just
closer to the
they
fight.
look so silly here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to like dig even further, but this is like completely even different from the financial side. But with Kamaru kind of coming out and doing all this, we're talking about a guy that should have a fight coming up soon in July against Leon Edwards.
Right.
And like, is it potentially bad that he's steering away a little from MMA? Not that we kind of know he's doesn't have many fights left. He's even said that. But just is there any realm possibility he could lose just that full focus on MMA that he's so damn good at? And
Is it possible that he's overlooking Leon Edwards?
yeah,
a
of
man
course.
he's beaten before,
Yeah.
but has definitely improved a lot since their first fight. Who's earned his title shot? He's really had to scratch and claw his way to get it.
Yeah.
Again, it's not even confirmed at this point that that's the fight
Right.
happening. We're just kind of assuming. Yeah, I don't know. I walked away from this and I was like, just doesn't feel like. I mean, it was literally like 10 sevens across the board. You know, for lack of better words, just not good. And then to really cap it all off, Steven Espinoza from Showtime. I don't know if you saw, he got involved in this as well, and
I think
was taking his fair share of shots at Usman and Ali. And Usman's kind of final response to him was that, well, if you want to take some tips on how to promote, you know, hit up Dana White kind of thing. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, I think Dana White's like the best in the business, but it's got to be a little ironic that the guy that you're telling this guy to take tips from Dana on how to promote when you're the one that's begging for
to
a
fight
bigger
his guy.
payday,
Yeah.
going outside of
Yeah.
the promotion that Dana is the president of. I mean, it's just a little ironic, right?
Right.
Again,
right.
I think Dana's great at what he does, but it probably not the best comeback if you're the guy that's going looking for red panty nights. I mean, it's just not.
Yep.
It's not good. But I digress. I'm sure more to come on this story, but hopefully not. Some fight announcements, Dominic. This is a real big part of today's show.
Oh yeah.
You know, there was a lot of whispers. Really, it felt like everything just kind of naturally flowed here. It was like a rumor popped up that these fights, really all three of the four that we're going to talk about, were being planned. Then you started seeing some unverified sources coming out saying it's true, and then Ariel Helwani's going on his show and saying that, you know, giving some green room exclusives or Spotify Live exclusives or whatever about them, and then the official announcements come. I felt like it all just snowballed for the
Hey,
week.
well, when I see that big Marcel tweet come,
Yeah.
I know I'm sending that shit in the Twitter
Yeah,
group.
exactly. Now we'll start with the one that's actually not of the group that we're talking about. This one came a little bit earlier. Maybe an under the radar fight right now. June 18th, Kevin Holland taking on Dirty Bird Tim Means.
Yeah.
You guys got to follow Kevin Holland on social media, man. I mean, did you see his fight announcement? The video he put out for this.
Well, I know for Oliveira he was using his OnlyFans. Did he do something similar here?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that one. This
Yeah.
one he did a video. It's essentially like, I think it's supposed to be like his manager calling him, being like, "Yeah, we got you a fight with like Dirty Bird or something like that." And he's like, "No, I see him right now," and it's some guy dressed like Big Bird. And just go watch it.
I will.
Dominic, you go watch it as soon as we're done here.
Okay.
It's just funny. I mean, it's remember when he fought Darren Stewart? It was the dentist.
Yeah.
So he was like beating up the dentist. That's
just
what
does
this
skits.
was, except it was Big Bird essentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of cringy, but it's very funny at the same time. It's Kevin Holland.
Exactly.
And this is his second fight at welterweight. He had a really good debut, solid debut against Alex Oliveira, who you just mentioned. Step up, I would say, here going up against Tim Means, but I'm glad that we're not just throwing him right into top 15. There's no need to do that. Tim Means is a good fighter. He beat Mike Perry about a year ago or a year and a half ago now. So,
and fun fights.
Your thoughts on this fight? Pretty fun, right?
Yeah, this is a fun fight. I'm surprised the UFC didn't give Holland like a top 15, but I do like this matchmaking. I don't think it's an easy fight for him. I think it's honestly, a really good stylistic matchup. Two guys that are in fun fights. Tim Means is as scrappy as ever. He loves going the distance and bleeding and going to war. And honestly, this one has that written all over it. We'll see if Holland can get another stoppage.
True. Next up, we got two big ones here. UFC London 2, I guess. That's probably what it'll be called, UFC London 2.
Yeah,
whatever. So the UFC is going back to London this summer, July 23rd. I'm sure we talked about that on here. And we got our main and co-main event for the card, Dominic. So the main event, 5 rounds, Curtis Blaydes taking on Tom Aspinall. Co-main event, Darren Till is back, going up against the Joker, Jack Hermansson, a fight that was planned to be the main event of a fight night back in December 2020. Yeah. Marvin Vettori ended up stepping in for Darren Till.
Hell of a fight was.
We got the biggest win of his career at that point. So, 2 big fights here, obviously. I guess you can give your thoughts on both. Maybe what's the biggest storyline poking out to you between the 2 fights? I mean, really just go whatever direction your heart desires here, Dom.
I'll start on, well, obviously these are both huge, but to me, anyway, personal level excitement, I'll start with the lower tier, and that is Darren Till. I'm happy to see him returning. Long layoff, tore his ACL, brutal injury.
Tough loss
against Brunson. And this is great matchmaking, though. I like him and Hermansson getting rebooked after such a long time apart. Hermansson, man, just such a freaking interesting matchup for anyone in this division. And Darren Till, we know how great his striking is. Can definitely be a fun fight. Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blaydes. Come on. That's my guy, Tom Aspinall. But we just watched Curtis Blaydes live in Columbus get one of the biggest wins of his career by knocking out Chris Daukaus. So,
and our man's been blowing up on Twitter. Curtis Blaydes Twitter.
Isn't that badass? Still don't really know the origin of that, but I think it's pretty cool nonetheless. And I like that he's playing into the community, Curtis Blaydes, because he's never been like on good terms with everybody.
He's really,
you know what I mean? So never. I love that he's getting this recognition now. But damn it, he's going against one of my favorite fighters in all of MMA, all of the UFC, and Tom Aspinall, getting back-to-back headliners in London. It's a big deal for him. This is a hard test. We know that the grappling of Blaydes causes trouble to many, and it could be a problem here for Aspinall. Hey, and by the way, Curtis Blaydes, he can knock people's lights out on the feet now. So that's an amazing fight. Can Aspinall weather the storm from the grappling? Can he get the better of Blaydes on the feet? I love everything about it. That's a great main event and co-main event. UFC returning to London. If that card is even half as good as the one in March, we're already in for a treat. If it delivers just as much, I don't know if I can handle it.
I love Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall so much. I want to like buy it roses. I want to like give it flowers. Like I just love it so much. This main event is fantastic. You know, I've criticized a lot of the heavyweight main events that we get, partially included Curtis Blaydes against Chris Dawkins. However, with the win that Blaydes got there in the fashion that he did, he's sort of won back some moment. I mean, I think that was 2 in a row, right? That was the second one in a row.
People forget the Rosenstruik win.
Yeah, the Rosenstruik one's always well. Anyways, because before that was the loss to Derek Lewis, right?
Yeah.
So Curtis Blaydes is both the hardest matchup for most heavyweights in the top, but he's also, again, at his biggest moments, just kind of fallen short so far. He's only got 3 losses in MMA, and 2 of them are to the champion, and one of them's to Derek Lewis. So, I mean, again, it's like we say he's faltered in his biggest moments, but he's only had a couple opportunities. So here he is again going up against the guy with the biggest rising star in the heavyweight division, unless Tuivasa is included in that. We'll talk about in a minute. But Tom Aspinall coming off of his first headlining performance against Alexander Volkov, where he put on a show in front of a rabid audience in London. So much so they're giving him another headlining spot here. You can tell the UFC really want to get the Europe behind this guy, Tom Aspinall, a man who before that headlining spot had never fought in front of a crowd of more than 1,000.
Yeah.
It's a tough matchup for Curtis Blaydes because Aspinall is so well-rounded and does seem to have good takedown defense, but it's one thing to have good takedown defense against some guys. Curtis Blaydes ain't some guy. He's the best wrestler in the whole division, and it's really a beautiful main event. I mean, it's just a great piece of matchmaking. I think Curtis Blaydes is probably going to be a dog in this fight, live dog. I think this is a pretty even fight going in. God, I'm just so excited.
Dude, I literally have chills.
We got to give some credit to one of our viewers who's been commenting a lot. Shout out to them.
Yes.
They comment, even though, sorry, I may not have been able to get back to you on a few of them, but I know Dom has been talking to you a little bit. But I saw where they kind of called for this. They called for Darren Till to be a co-main event. And that might have been obvious to some people. To me, I wasn't sure if they would do that. Like, I felt like perhaps they would wait and hold Darren Till for a main event spot because he is still that big. But no, they went for him with the co-main. Jack Hermansson, I think, is a very appropriate opponent for him to come back to. Another guy who's kind of had his ups and downs, but such a fun fighter to watch, a tough fighter. He's coming off the main event loss to Sean Strickland. Kind of got outclassed in that one. Could the same happen here with Darren Till? Yes, but with Darren Till's deficiencies in the past, when the fight goes to the ground, would Hermansson be able to take advantage of that? I don't know. I think it's a possibility, but it's an interesting 3-round fight. I still expect to see some of the people that you would expect to be on this card announced here soon. People like Patty Pimblett, Molly McCann, Jack Shore. I think these are all big possibilities to be on this card.
And Mokhayev's on it again, too.
Yeah, Mokhayev. Who's he fighting? He's fighting. It's a big fight, ain't it?
It's the LFA champ, I think.
Oh,
that you sent me about.
Sorry, and now I can't think of his name. But that's going to be a great fight. A lot of good coming up with this UFC London card. I'm very excited for it. And these 2 fights just add to the excitement.
Yes.
Now we got one more.
Oh,
another 5-round main event, rumored to, and I don't know if it's official yet.
No.
But if it stands as planned,
this
will be the first main event that the UFC will have had in Paris, France. Ciryl Gane will make his return September 3rd, 5 rounds against the other biggest rising star in the heavyweight division, Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa. The Shoeys will be a Bruin there in Paris, France. So, Dominic, I'm going to be honest with you. So much of the discussion of what matchups are next, you got like 6 guys, right? Because Jones and Stipe are kind of included in this. And everybody's been kind of putting their matchups together. Just all 6 of these guys. Who are the 3 matchups you make, right? And, I don't feel like a lot of people were putting Gane and Tuivasa together.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is because a lot of people are overlooking Tuivasa in this matchup. They think that Gane is just
Probably.
too talented, too technical, too well-rounded, and too defensively sound, quite frankly, to fall into a heavy right hand by Tai Tuivasa. But guys, is this the Derek Lewis effect all over again? Like, how are you guys going to sit there and count out Tai
You can't.
Tuivasa?
You
This
can't.
guy, I get it. The way he's rising through the ranks, he's knocking people out, right? Derek Lewis included in that list. But Tai Tuivasa has more skills than that,
Yeah.
guys. He's got heavy, heavy leg kicks. Yes, I do question if, Ciryl Gane's big question mark now appears to be the wrestling, right? Because Francis Ngannou,
Defensive
uh,
wise, yeah.
defensively speaking, Francis Ngannou was able to take him down and kind of use his strength. I know Tuivasa is not that kind of threat, but as far as winning this fight standing, don't get me wrong. I think Ciryl Gane should be the favorite in this fight. He'll probably have a speed advantage. He's more fit, more in shape, probably going to have more stamina into the later rounds. But make no mistake about it, Tai Tuivasa is here for a reason. He's getting a main event slot here. I'm happy for him. He's going into enemy territory, but I don't think he's going to give a fuck about any of that. Now that I said that, I'm curious your thoughts. Do you feel like a little more strongly about Ciryl Gane's chances here, or do you see what I'm seeing? Are the fans kind of counting out Tai Tuivasa's chances in this matchup?
I think people are definitely counting out Tai Tuivasa. That was actually funny though. You kept saying Gone better this, better that, right? Over Tuivasa, which on paper, of course, he is. I saw someone tweet all that like a bullet list and then said, with that being said, Tai Tuivasa second round knockout.
Isn't
And I'm
that
like,
what they did with Lewis and Gane for the
I
interim
think so.
heavyweight title?
Yeah, probably. So and this is a great fight. I think the UFC nailed it on the head here with these heavyweight matchups. It just these feel like the semifinals of some huge fight that's going to come next. Like the winners will go against each other, and then they're going to fight for a belt. It's just I think it's all perfect matchmaking. Tai Tuivasa is a threat. You cannot count him out. The power, he lands once. That's all it takes. He has to land one time. I think Gane will be a slightly large betting favorite, which, again, it's understandable when he's the all around better fighter, but I'm honestly, to me, I think there's more pressure, I think, on Gane, of course, especially if he's headlining in Paris. But just in terms of, I can't find the words right now to put it to terms in the microphone, but like, I think this is a big opportunity, obviously, for Tai Tuivasa to not only win and put himself in title contention, but to really show that Gane has a lot more holes that are just getting exposed. We saw the wrestling defense happen, and not that he's going to get taken down here, but say he loses now on the feet or does get knocked out by Tai Tuivasa, this whole untouchable, perfect record and whatnot that was before Francis Ngannou could all go to the wayside in a matter of two fights.
I mean,
I think
Dominic,
there's a
we
ton
were
of
we
pressure
were
here.
calling for Ciryl Gane, or not calling for him. We were calling Ciryl Gane the most well-rounded heavyweight in UFC history.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a reason for that, for how good he looked in the lead up. But what happens coming off the loss to Ngannou, where he did look pretty devastated by the loss.
Yes.
In the fashion it happened, it was such a shock to us all how the fight transpired. Follow up is not the same kind of fight. It's, again, you're going up against someone who's going to look to knock you out.
Yep.
But he has also got a well-rounded offensive arsenal of kicks, strikes. He's very talented on the feet. But Ciryl Gane has the speed and the defensive awareness to, I believe, win this fight.
Yep.
But again, it's kind of like I think Tai Tuivasa has a better chance in this fight than Derek Lewis had when he fought Ciryl Gane.
I like that.
That's my opinion right now.
Yeah.
Now let's get back into a little more UFC Vegas 53 with the rest. Co-main event, Dominic. Say it with me, everybody.
Here we go.
The 4 words: Andrei
Arlovski
Arlovski by decision.
It should be 5 because you got to add in split now.
By split decision. Yeah. So Andrei Arlovski gets the split decision win. Thanks, Dominic, for the clarification there. Over Jake Collier. Now, with this win, Arlovski has tied Donald Cerrone and Jim Miller with 23 for the most wins in UFC history. Obviously, I think that deserves a bit of a round of applause, right? For a Pitbull.
A legend.
A legend, a guy over the course of 2 stints in the UFC, just to be clear. He was a man he was a heavyweight champion in 2005.
No, he debuted in 2000. That's crazy. It's 2022.
But with that being said, Dominic, should he have gotten the decision here?
Man, to me, I saw a lot of people actually throwing around the word robbery. I didn't necessarily feel it was like a robbery. It wasn't a bad fight, by the way. It was pretty scrappy. They were going at it. So I think I scored 1 and 2 for Arlovsky, 3 for Collier. But I saw a lot of people saying you're crazy if you scored round 1 for Arlovsky. But to me, if Jake would have won, I wouldn't have been griping either way. You know what I mean? It was that type of close fight. I don't think robbery deserves to be thrown around here.
I didn't score it live because I was kind of in and out. I was watching it on my phone at the time. Long story. But when I do it like that, I don't really score fights because I'm not really getting the best view of the action. But at the end of it, I remember in my head feeling like Collier had won the fight. Now, with that being said, was I ecstatic when Arlovsky got the scorecards? Yes, I was. I was very happy. And I was happy that we could continue with my mantra. I'm going to get it tattooed on me, Arlovsky by decision.
Shirts, hoodies, hats, everything.
Yeah, so I was happy about it. And again, I don't think it's a robbery either. I wasn't scoring it, but it was a close fight. That's really Arlovsky's MO at this point.
Yeah.
Whether he's fighting Chase Sherman or Jake Collier or Jared Vandura. Some people thought Vandura that was a split decision.
And Carlos Felipe.
That fight I thought Arlovsky won. But anyway, all these guys, Arlovsky, he may not be overwhelmingly beating these guys, but he's been doing it for so long. He has so much experience, so much knowledge of how the scoring works, how the fight game works, that he does enough to get the win.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that should be celebrated, not I don't like the words robbery being thrown around on this occasion.
No.
We'll save that for Priscilla Cachoeira, Ji-Young Kim.
I knew that was coming.
For me.
Yes.
Which, again, I know me and Dominic were split on that one as well. So, but here I saw who did you mention earlier?
Marcel said it.
Yeah, he scored at 30-27 for Collier, and I was like, oh, shit. And because I thought for sure, when I was watching it, Arlovsky was had done enough to win a round or something. But
yeah,
I can't deny I'm just happy for the guy. He ties that record. And, Cerrone's got 1 fight left coming up this weekend, so he might put himself in the first place. Jim Miller doesn't look to be slowing down at all.
No, they're just going to keep going.
This is supposed to be Cerrone's last fight.
Yeah,
Arlovsky, I expect to continue for a couple more.
Yeah, till
we're going to have an interesting race because I think Cerrone will end up falling out of the pack here. But Arlovsky and Jim Miller may just continue head to head for a couple more years. Who knows?
I know. Inevitably, they'll just have to fight each other. So.
How old is Arlovsky now? Is he 45?
43.
43. At heavyweights, that's where you can get away with that.
True.
The higher the division, usually the less age plays a factor.
Look at Stipe and DC. They were 38, 39, 40, with championships. So.
Randy Couture, heavyweight champion. 45.
Yeah, oldest champion ever. Even Glover Teixeira, a light heavyweight, 38.
Yeah, very true, very true. But following that, Dominic, it was probably the biggest surprise of the card for me. Not that Joe Anderson Brito got the win over Andre Fili, but he did it in 41 seconds, Dominic. The TKO win. Joe Anderson Brito is pretty good, and he's pretty explosive, and he's got quite a bit of power, and he put Fili out.
Oh, dude, that right hook came from across the street of
that
the
was
Apex.
A nasty right hook.
Dude, that hook was brutal. The way he went in for the ground and pound. Well, what a statement made by Joe Anderson Brito, right? He had that sketchy win on the Contender Series. He got the contract anyway, loses his debut, then comes in here against it was a Bill Algeo, right? We keep saying he fought Bill Algeo, which is a tough fight. But then he gets a tougher matchup against Andre Fili, who's had so many fights in the UFC, and you starch him? I mean, dude, that's an impressive outing for him and one that he needed to right the ship for his career.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to think on the reverse end of the thrill and the agony, right? I mean, this might be the worst loss of Andre Fili's career. In a career where I didn't realize he's 9-8 in UFC. It's not been very smooth.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a bumpy ride for him in the UFC. Now, I don't think this is like the kiss of death. I don't think this is the here's your papers, see you later. But maybe it's just time to kind of be realistic about where Andre Fili stands. Like, again, he's been so inconsistent, it's hard to tell because sometimes he looks so good.
His last win was that way. Yep.
Yeah. Who was that again?
I can't remember. And he looked so good. He looked so good.
But then, you see the Bryce Mitchell fight. And yes, Bryce Mitchell is an animal, but that was a fight Mitchell won by outstriking Fili. It's just, there's things like that where they're puzzling performances, but in between you have these moments of seeing a real player in the division. And here that's just, he got caught, really. That's what happened here. So it's a tough loss, but I'm sure we'll see him back. He's a fan favorite as well. He's got an interesting look. He's got the tattoos and stuff, so he'll be around.
Yeah.
Next up, a guy that me and you have both been a little bit mellow on is Grant Dawson, who's kind of a prospect in the UFC. And he continues his win streak or unbeaten streak with the third-round submission of Jared Gordon, perhaps the future opponent of Paddy Pimblett. And he did it in round 3, 4 minutes, 11 seconds in. Was this the win to kind of get you on the Grant Dawson hype train, Dom?
That's interesting you asked that question because I was going to say before you asked, I think he won me over this week, Grant Dawson.
I was going to say the same thing.
His interview with Megan O'Leary really was so fascinating, so well-spoken, so smart. He made a camp change. He's now at American Top Team. We know how damn good everybody is down there. So, he's adjusting his career. After that fight that he dominated the first 2 rounds of that fight that he had the draw with. I can't remember who the opponent was. It's another grappler. If anybody knows, comment right now on the YouTube. But he gassed in the third, got 10-8'd. They had a draw. And immediate for him to recognize, okay, even in one fight, this guy is 17-1. Now he's 18-1, I think, or something. Or now he's 17-1. Either way. And then automatically makes a camp change and comes out and looks great in this. His grappling is so good. His pressure, his pace. He's going to get you down. And yes, while he does wrestle a ton, look at his finishing rate. He has 17 wins now. I believe 13 or 14 of them are by finish, with like the vast majority coming via submission. So, this guy is legit. He's 6-0-1 in the UFC. He's the lightweight division's fucking nuts because I want to keep saying he deserves top 15, but then I look at all the other guys that I say that for, and I'm like, dude, you can't keep saying this. So he's right amongst those guys. And what a performance to get a finish like that against Jared Gordon on a main card. Jared Gordon had never been submitted before in his career until last night.
Yeah, I feel like with this win, the way it happened, it kind of rectified the wrongs of his previous fight, where he started out so strong.
Yeah.
And then by round 3, he looked like a shell of himself and got 10-8'd. So this kind of was a big bounce back, kind of what he needed. And top 15 next, Dom? What do you say?
I'm all for it. If you're for it, I'm for it. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we're the ones calling the shots here.
Damn right.
Darren the Damage Elkins, the best nickname, the best tattoo in MMA, was back. Sense. And he did Darren Elkins things by going to a unanimous decision, but getting the win over Tristan Connolly. Kind of a surprise for me, truthfully. Even though Tristan Connolly only 1-1 in the UFC, I kind of thought Darren Elkins was maybe wearing down a bit in his career. But once again, here he goes. Bloody affair. It was a classic Darren Elkins fight, right?
Yep, copy and paste, man. Used a lot of grappling, and this one wasn't willing to stand and trade too much, but when they did, he's going to bleed, right? He's got the scar tissue just like the Diaz's. Tristan Connolly was busted open bad, nasty elbows. It was just a dirty, bloody fight, and Elkins gets the win again. Another guy, 37, 38 years old, still winning on the same card as Andrei Arlovski. Crazy. Yeah,
true. And lastly, headlining our prelims, we finally got the much-anticipated matchup, the biggest betting underdog in UFC history was one Chase Sherman, and he showed exactly why he was the biggest betting underdog in UFC history. He gets key-locked submission by Alexander Romanov in round 1, 2 minutes 11 seconds in. No disrespect when I say that to Chase Sherman. I think it's just how good Alexander Romanov is.
I mean, he looked like the biggest favorite in UFC history.
Yeah,
right.
right.
I mean, it's simple. Minus 2,200. Went in there.
Look, I admit it. I said on the betting show on Nosebleeds on Thursday or Friday that I wasn't comfortable, putting Romanov in a parlay or whatever because the odds, he was a minus 2,200 people.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, to put money on that guy would be asinine.
Yeah, you win like 5 cents.
But he went out there and showed that there was reason to believe that.
Yeah, dude, and I can't help it. We already kind of mentioned it, but the new physique, it's like the next level, like the evolution of Romanov. This dude, it's top 15 next. It has to be. No more waiting around. He's 5-0. We have to do it.
I agree. Sorry, I was picking up my phone. I don't know if you could hear that, but
a little bumping. That's all.
I kind of forgot about the whole audio thing. But my only question again, this was another first round finish with the new physique. How's he looking in round 2, round 3? Because that's been the only blemish we've seen on him thus far. Even though again, he's still got to win when that happened. But yeah, I mean, this was all great. It was great stuff. I mean, what are you gonna say, right?
Exactly.
And one last thing. I mean, that's really gonna wrap it up for this edition of the weekend recap. However, Dom, before we go on our little merry way, I do want to remind people that Thursday, again, I'll be back in Ohio. We will have, for the Nosebleeds this Friday, we will have a below average bet slip. Yeah. We will be placing our picks Wednesday. So those will be ready to go for Friday's show. So if you've tuned in, which shout out, we actually did better numbers on that episode than we had in the past few weeks. So maybe that's just the key. We just don't actually make bad picks.
Yeah.
But Thursday is gonna be a big preview.
You
got UFC 274, Dom. I mean, big deal. And is Bellator? Yeah, Bellator's back, right?
Dude,
Bellator
we have PFL 3, UFC 274, Bellator in London. I mean, dude.
It's Paris,
or is it
right?
Paris? Yes, Paris first. Sorry. London next week.
Yeah, this is a big week. Holy shit. God, I gotta get ready.
Kayla's back. Shout out Ohio. I'm so excited to see her. The pay-per-view this weekend, even the prelims, is fucking nuts in Arizona. Bellator. Honestly, you're taking the wayside of the PFL and the UFC this weekend, and they still have a pretty damn good card with the heavyweight title fight as the main event. Woo, Thursday, buckle in.
And I mean, again, I know we don't talk about boxing on here, but since there's a lot of overlap. Canelo Alvarez is fighting this weekend.
Is he actually fighting this weekend? Wow.
He's going. I think guys. I don't remember exactly. I think he's around 170 pounder in boxing, but he's going up to fight like a light heavyweight for the for the belt. Like he's going up big, like 20 pounds to fight Dimitri Bivol.
Wow. Dude's an animal.
So I'm very excited to watch that, and I mean, so much to watch. Will I be able to watch all of it because I have a wedding next weekend? I don't know. Jeremy, you motherfucker, you're lucky I love you. But if you see me leave early, mind your business.
I just want Noah to be like up at the wedding with his phone watching the fights on the stage. So.
Yeah, I'm literally gonna be up there. I'm gonna be like. There's gonna be like a TV in the back, and I'm gonna have it on the fights. You're gonna see me like fucking like reacting while they're trying to go through the.
It was gonna go right during the vows.
But yes, I love my MMA. I gotta know that again. What did I say at the beginning, Dom? Sport never sleeps. What did I know? I kind of city never sleeps. Sport never slows down. I don't know. It's everything keeps moving.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to MMA Bobblehead. I proceeded to buy everything he has. So
literally,
and he's been. I mean, that guy's been great. I mean, he's been checking in on me to make sure I got my shipment and everything. So
I have to check him.
Shout out to him. I got the first half of what was a 12 bobblehead order. So
you guys do.
Hopefully, in the future, that will not be by itself. Eventually, maybe I'll have some displays behind me with some nice little bobbleheads back there. But, yeah, all good stuff. But, Dominic, before we just end the show, we got some closing statements.
Shit, that might as well all have been a closing statement for me, honestly. I should have just thrown it up. But.
So, for you, Dominic, do you have any closing statements for today's show?
No, I kind of said my piece. I'm just super excited. It's going to be a huge week for MMA, for the show. Continue to tune in if you guys like the content. Obviously, if you're on YouTube watching, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. If you listen on audio, be sure to give us a follow there. Rate us if you can on some of those apps. But yeah, I'm just super stoked. I know that I think I know what you're going to say, so go ahead and let the people know. Never mind. I don't know what he's going to say.
What was I going to say?
I thought you were going to talk about the women's fight a little bit more is all.
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Yeah, because I guess we did cut out what I talked about.
The original, yeah.
So, yeah, for my closing statement, I'm glad Dominic reminded me about that because I just had to give an opportunity to talk about Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor. It was a massive fight this past weekend. If you're a fan of boxing, I mean, I'm sure you guys were checking this out, but if you're not, I highly recommend you find a way to watch it. It was one of the best, not just women fights of all time, but probably one of the best boxing fights I've ever seen. I haven't seen as many as the next guy, but the fact that other people online that have seen a lot more than me were kind of validating how I felt made me feel okay to say that right now. But it was just an absolute war. And it's one of those fights. Boxing has so often seems to disappoint people, right? Mm-hmm. There's always controversial decisions and or draws or whatever that people always get fed up with. The big fights that you want, there's always some politics that get in the way of it happening, it seems like. But this was number one versus number two, pound for pound, the likes of which you never see in any combat sport. I mean, I remember Ariel was talking about this on his show. Probably the only time we've ever seen that in the UFC where number one versus number two pound for pound fought was like Daniel Cormier versus John Jones and maybe Stipe versus DC. I mean, those are really the only examples.
Yeah.
I mean, you never got Anderson Silva versus GSP. You never got John Jones versus Anderson Silva or whatever it might be. You know, we'll never probably see Kamaru Usman versus Israel Adesanya.
Right.
So you got number one versus number two, and it was the very first women's fight to ever headline Madison Square Garden. That's been going on for over 140 years. It just felt like a really big moment. I wish I would have been there live, truthfully. I mean, it just the atmosphere seemed incredible. It was a great fight. And honestly, it like kind of it's been building for a while, but it's just driving more of an interest in boxing for me. Not to take away from my MMA interest. I mean, come on, MMA is still my baby now.
Right.
You know? But hey, if people start commenting, clamoring for a little bit of boxing, don't think that I won't be afraid.
Oh no, we'll have you covered. Don't you worry.
But I don't expect that to happen. But I digress. It was just a really big fight, and I just wanted to tell people about it in case you were not aware or missed it or whatever. Because I get it. If you feel like you can't pay the money for that when you got UFC 274 coming up, I get it.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you can find a way to watch it by whatever means, I'm not saying it, by whatever means you can find it on, it's truly worth your time. I can't wait to see the rematch. But it was very reminiscent. It was a more historic feeling version of the first Weili Joanna fight. That's how I felt. Like that felt like a huge monumental fight for women's MMA.
Yeah.
This had the added factor of Madison Square Garden behind it and stuff. So it was a little more, but the fight itself, they're very similar in kind of how they played out. So
love that.
Yeah. But that's going to wrap it up here for us. I'm Noah Baker. That's Dominic Salee. We're the Below Average Joes, and we will see you guys on Thursday.